Okay, I think I have gotten live. Here we just sent invite to Natalia.
Hi, Saima. Okay.
Hi, hello. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as well.
Okay, great. I think I'll wait for a minute or two because I can see people are just joining in. So we can just
Mm-hmm.
wait and then get started.
Okay.
So how is the lockdown been in your country?
It's fine. I guess that the restrictions are no longer that strict. So right now they are allowing people to, meet in small gatherings. I think that also hairdresser opened, dentists have opened. So I think that everything slowly goes back to normal.
Okay.
And how does it look like in your country?
Oh, it's difficult in few cities like in Mumbai, Delhi, and Bangalore, where the density of population is a little on a higher side. So it's challenging, but
Yeah.
they are planning to ease out the lockdown in coming weeks slowly and steadily. At least start with the medical and the important stuff, and then
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
take a call
exactly.
how it goes. Okay, so let's get started. So, hi everyone, good evening. This is Dr. Harish Badiger, and I hope you all are doing safe and sound. As we all know, we have started this second live series, and today is our second session. And we happen to extend our support to our parents by continuing this live series. And I thank all the professionals who were part of the previous live series who exchanged their valuable information and time to help out the parents. And today's topic is about gut-brain axis. And we have Natalia from Netherlands who would be joining us, who is here for the second time. She was a part of the live series last time as well. So a big thank you, Natalia, for accepting my invite once again and being present here today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm glad that I was invited by you, and I'm really happy to see that people are interested in topics like gut and gut-brain axis. This is very fascinating area of research. So I hope that I will be able today to share a little bit of knowledge I possess.
Right, right. So we all know how important diet is when it comes to our physical health. But many people are not aware, how dietary habits can in fact impact your neurological system. It can alter your brain functions and performance. And that is one reason why we happen to choose today's topic of gut-brain axis. So coming and jumping straight into the topic. So the first question, Natalia, for you is what is gut-brain axis?
Okay, so in the easiest way, I would say that it is just the way the brain and the gut communicate with each other, and this is like bidirectional communication. So brain will send signal to the gut, and also what is happening in the gut, the signal is gonna be sent to the brain, and that kind of communication can happen directly and also indirectly. So this is just the way two organs are communicating with each other.
Right. Okay. So what do you mean by, by communication? Like, is it in context to only neurotransmitters or how does it happen?
Yeah, it happens in a few ways. First, I would say that just the nerves are connecting brain and gut, for example, the vagus nerve. So this is one way of the communication. This is more direct way. But also the brain can receive information what is happening in the gut through, for example, hormones. We know that when we are eating, some peptides are released, some hormones are released, so then they can reach the brain, and then the brain receives that information. But also in the gut, we have our microbiome. We have different bacteria, yeast, bacteriophages, and those, for example, bacteria could release some molecules that will then can go to the bloodstream, then can reach the brain. Also, bacteria can in the gut we can synthesize different neurotransmitters, so that's another way of communication. Also in the gut we have a lot of immune cells.
Right.
So, and those cells have also like receptors for different molecules. So again, through immune system, brain can also receive information what is happening in the gut.
Right. Right. Okay. So how does central nervous system and enteric nervous system communicate? And, what food items can alter that?
I think, yes, I just quickly explained how they could communicate. But also, yes, food definitely can impact this communication, because when we are, for example, eating something which doesn't really agree with us, something which our system is sensitive to, therefore we can create some kind of inflammation, and this inflammation can then spread to a central nervous system. So there will be types of food which are good for us and that will enrich our microbiome and will help us to produce optimal environment for that growth of bacteria. But we also have some not best food choices that can disrupt this microbiome and can also produce some molecules like LPS, which is sort of toxic for our environment. I don't know if I answer your question.
No, that's fine. I get your point. So coming back to the previous point which you mentioned, so the gut is lined and also has a lot of bacteriophages which help in building up the immunity. Would you recommend any form of food we should look at to boost that immunity?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to sort of boost our immune system through the gut, and also how to nourish our gut. First of all, I have to mention that bacteria likes fibers, so definitely we should enrich our diet in fibers, in different types of fibers. That would be very good. Also, we should consume more probiotics and also prebiotics like inulin, which will be in foods like garlic, onions. So probiotics, generally fermented foods, and also omega-3 fatty acids. Not also food matters, but also our lifestyle. So we know that, for example, if we are stressing a lot, then it can impact negatively our gut microbiome. Stress or too much physical activity. So we have to pay attention to many things.
Right.
But in general, I would say that we should eat like a variety of foods, still consuming enough fiber, and focus on probiotics and prebiotics, fermented foods in general.
Right. So again, the question is a general one, and most of the answers would overlap. Again, the question is, how can one strengthen the brain function by improving gut-brain axis?
So just in this way, eating food that is good for our microbiome, and also avoiding food that is not really good for us. So, for example, we should avoid sugar, processed sugar. First of all, processed foods in general. We should avoid alcohol. If we should focus on more organic food, because we know that organic food has more bacteria, and unfortunately, non-organic food or also GMO food will be often treated with glyphosate, and glyphosate can disrupt our microbiome. What else we could do? I think that we should also consider our individual sensitivities, because some people do not tolerate well dairy. We should be careful on inflammatory oils. Some people don't really digest very well gluten, so we also take a look at this. What else? Some things can be generally perceived as healthy. However, they might be not so healthy for us. For example, everyone says that we should drink a lot of water. Water is great for you. But however, if you are drinking a lot of chlorinated water, therefore chlorine will kill bacteria. It can also impact your microbiome. Also red meat. Some people would say that red meat is good because it has a lot of vitamin B12. However, if you have too much iron, because we know that red meat is rich in iron, that iron can be also inflammatory in the gut. Also fish. We know that omega-3 fatty acids are very good for you.
Right.
However, if you are eating farmed fish often contains contains some amount of antibiotics, and again, you are consuming those antibiotics, and then they will disrupt your microbiome. So again, we should find a way to eat more foods that are good for us and avoid the ones which are not good for us. And if we because whatever is happening in the gut, then it can contribute to our brain and mental health.
Right. Now I remember the last conversation we had in our first live series, and there you happened to mention how important it was to have a right balance between movement, sleep, diet, and your water levels in the body. Would you like to highlight that in context to gut-brain axis once again?
Yes, there are our lifestyle also can impact our microbiome. So of course, diet is. But we have that not only diet is important, but also sleep, stress management, physical activity, and mental stimulation. So also physical activity can impact our microbiome, because our gut and gut permeability. Because if we are exercising too much, it also creates stress. So if we have only a little bit of stress, that's good for us. However, if we push our limits too far, it creates stress. It can also create inflammatory response, and that's gonna also disturb the microbiome. So there are many lifestyle changes we have to consider when we are talking about our gut health and then brain health.
Right. So in last couple of years, there is a lot of emphasis given on gut-brain axis when we come in context to dealing with children with autism. So does GFCF, gluten-free diet, help in children with autism?
Hard to say. I mean, this is a controversial topic, because there are some studies done on this topic, and there's not like conclusive, there's not just like one answer that yes, it will help everybody. I believe that there is a subpopulation of children with autism or adults with autism, people with autism, that the gluten-free and casein-free diet can really help. And we have anecdotal evidence, because if you would Google that, you would definitely find parents online who would swear that this is something which really improved the behavior of their children. However, we do not have really solid scientific evidence that it can work. So I would say that it's worth giving a try. If it's possible, then yes, for some amount of time, the parent could try to eliminate gluten and casein from the diet. However, it also has some disadvantages, because gluten those things often offer children fiber and also calcium. So when we try to optimize their diet, we have to be careful to not cause any nutrient deficiencies. Another problem I see is that children with autism, they also have some preferences. Like you can create for them perfect diet, but it doesn't mean that they will eat it, because children with autism can have certain rules. So they won't eat, I don't know, mushy foods, or this day they like this and they will eat that kind of food, but the next day they won't eat it.
Right.
So again, it is slightly complicated, but it is possible, and I would say that it's worth giving it a try. However, we do not have any solid evidence that it's gonna work. We don't know that, but maybe it's worth trying.
Right. Now, my next question is about stress and gut-brain axis. And in this lockdown period, many of us agree their eating habits have gone for a toss. So would you want to just highlight how stress can actually trigger overeating habits as well?
Yes, definitely. I'm talking much about it. So generally, eating is considered, when we are eating definitely something tasty, something is hyper palatable. There is a lot of like dopamine release in our brain, so we are also feeling better. So right now, when we are under the chronic stress, our brain also perceives that situation as very stressful. Therefore, we want to eat more. We have increased appetite because the brain wants to sort of soothe ourselves. We know that eating is very calming. When we are eating, a lot of like happy neurotransmitters are being released. So this is sort of our brain's reaction to a stressful situation, that then we are overeating. However, it's not, of course, good for our gut-brain axis. We know that if we are overeating on food, we may suffer from some digestive problems. Usually during lockdown, I see that people are reaching to eat more unhealthy snacks. Therefore, again, it's not really good for our microbiome. And if we have, for example, inflammatory response in our microbiome, that can spread to nervous system, and again, our mood will go down.
Right.
So even if food gives us this immediate, we are feeling immediate boost in our mood, in the long term, unfortunately, it contributes to our mood goes down.
Right. Very true. It's like a vicious cycle.
Yes, it is. Yes, and then we are eating to make ourselves feel better. Yes, that is true.
So coming to a few more questions which I have. What is leaky gut? Which diet modification can help it to improve?
Okay, yeah, leaky gut. It's very funny that you've mentioned that, because a few years ago, if I would mention on my old YouTube channel that there's something like leaky gut, I would get a lot of hate because people didn't believe that something like leaky gut exists. But right now we have different term for it, and it's called intestinal permeability, and it's a real thing. So if you would think about your gut as a structure that something is inside the gut, but it cannot go to your bloodstream. So what is leaky gut is that those spaces in cells in your gut lining, they are just the spaces are bigger. So some things from your gut can go to your bloodstream.
Right.
So, for example, different lipopolysaccharides, like I said before, LPS, and this is toxic, or undigested food particles can also go to your system. And if you have a leaky gut, therefore those things can go to your blood system, and then it can contribute to, for example, brain fog, different hormonal imbalances. In some people, it can also trigger autoimmune disease. So yes, leaky gut is it can happen, and some things can contribute to it, like, for example, stress, a lot of alcohol, and those things which I said that destroy the gut.
Right.
However, if we want to heal the leaky gut again, we have to incorporate more lifestyle changes and dietary changes, which I've mentioned before. But I think that in our gut, all of the gut experts will tell you about 4 steps. That first you have to remove, then replace, then re-inoculate, and then repair. So what does it mean is that first you have to remove the inflammatory foods from your diet. It can be gluten, it could be dairy, it can be nightshades. Those are sort of nightshades are healthy vegetables, but some people would have to remove them. And then you have to repair your gut lining, for example, with consuming L-glutamine, which is one of the amino acids. Maybe you have to drink some marshmallow root, or maybe also get some collagen into your system. You also should re-inoculate healthy gut bacteria into your gut lining, so you can take some enzymes, making sure that your food is well digested. You can also eat some prebiotics, probiotics, and then later you also have to just take care of your gut, because it's a system that it is changing all the time. So it's not like once you repair your gut, you don't have to do anything. It's, you have to work on it every day, and every day feed your bacteria with good and healthy things.
Right, very insightful. And I'm sure many of us are not aware of such concerns. So thank you for addressing that. So we have few questions which are here by the audience. So the question is, why do leading pediatricians do not recognize this gut-brain connections?
Because it's not yet well known. The problem is with when doctors are usually healing people, they are working with patients, and they do not have a time to go and research different stuff. And we know that research is all the time changing. So I would say that it's not their fault, it's not doctors' fault that they do not have time to do their research, right? But I think that that a well-known doctor who is also visiting different conferences, that doctor will gain more knowledge about gut-brain axis, and finally they will incorporate it into their clinic. Because right now what we know about gut-brain axis is not really much about the we know much about the research on animals, or there are some small clinical studies. So unfortunately, I think that we will have to wait a few years before those information will be used really in clinical setting.
Right, very true. And the next question is, are there any tests available to know which food causes inflammation in the gut?
There are some tests, however, not all of them are reliable. So I think that best is to go on an elimination diet, and then slowly incorporating, that would be also the cheapest test. Just go on elimination diet, then slowly try to incorporate the food that you previously eliminated, get them back to your diet, but slowly. For example, you incorporate again one type of the food, and then you have to just write symptoms. What is happening? Maybe you have some rash, maybe you have some digestive problems. So it's best to just observe yourself and slowly but surely incorporate those foods. You can also do some tests. You can check the inflammation in your body by measuring C-reactive protein. So there are some blood tests for that as well, but it will tell you about the general inflammation, not really inflammation in the gut.
Right, very true. So the next question is, we usually come across when we deal with children with autism. So many of the pediatricians recommend them to undergo, to take camel's milk. So do you think it would help in some way?
I don't know, because I don't really know much about the camel's milk. I'm not in the in the area of the world when that would be popular. So I really didn't do any research about that. So yeah. It's actually the first time I hear about such recommendation. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. The next question is, do antioxidants help the guts for the system?
Yes, I would say that antioxidants definitely help the system, because sometimes what is happening in the gut, you've got, for example, some toxins, and then the toxins can cause release of reactive oxygen species. So definitely anti-inflammatory foods, and sometimes those anti-inflammatory foods have antioxidants in them, because those are different fruits and vegetables with antioxidants. So yes, definitely, I think that it could help to lower the inflammation in the gut and also inflammation in the system. However, we have to be careful definitely with the supplements to do not overdo with antioxidants. We do not want to flood our system, our body with only antioxidants, because after all, we need a little bit of stress in ourselves,
Right.
because that makes us resilient.
Right. So the next question is, what is the connection of gut with children with autism?
Okay, so we know that children with autism have just different microbiome, different profile of the microbes in their gut. We know that also from research on animals, that that just people that we can sort of induce autism symptoms in, for example, mice or rats, if we take away all of their microbiota and change their microbiome.
Right.
We also know that when people are when researchers are testing the microbiome of the normal people and people with autism, we know that there are huge differences. Also, sometimes probiotics can change behavior. That's why some people would recommend to eat a lot of probiotics and even supplement with probiotics. If you have an autism, then that might help you with your systems. Recently, I even heard about very interesting therapy, which is a fecal transplant.
Right.
So you sort of take poop from one person, from one healthy person, and you inject that to person with autism, and that can change microbiome. And I think that research even said that the difference could be seen in symptoms, and it even lasted in 50% of people who went through that treatment. It actually changed their symptoms, and the difference was still there after 2 years after procedure. So I think that it's another exciting area of research.
Right. So continuing with the same question, in children with autism, we see a lot of behavioral traits where they have uncontrollable laughter. So many of us point out it could be because of increase in the yeast in their gut. So what is your opinion on that?
Yes, that is definitely possible. Again, I cannot point out to any research, but yes, definitely when we have yeast overgrowth, even in healthy people, that can cause a lot of problems, a lot of also behavioral problems, I don't know, depression, brain fog or moodiness. So definitely in children with autism, that is also possible.
Right, right. Okay. So right now I'm left with my last question, and let's see if we have any online questions coming up. So how would you want to conclude it as a giveaway message for the audience when it comes to gut-brain axis?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, in my opinion, just if any one of you were interested in what I'm saying, you can always look for more information online and really pay attention to what you are eating. Maybe there are some areas where you could really improve, make some better, healthier choices. And I can guarantee you that if you will take care of your gut, I think that also your mood will improve, and your generally how your brain works.
Right.
So yeah, I would say just educate yourself and then try to incorporate more healthy foods into your diet.
Right. So I can see a few questions coming up. So the question is, does intermittent fasting affect gut-brain connection?
Yes, because intermittent fasting is actually sort of good for your microbiome, because if you are not eating for some period of time, therefore your bacteria in your gut can you do not feed the bad bacteria, because if you are constantly eating, therefore you are constantly digesting, and you
Right.
are also feeding, for example, sugar or something to bad bacteria. However, if you don't eat for a certain amount of time, your gut microbiome is, going through changes, but those changes are positive changes.
Right.
So I think that the periods of fasting, of short fasting, they are actually good for your microbiome, and the good bacteria will survive, because the bacteria often create biofilm around in the gut, so they will survive. Don't worry, you won't kill all of your bacteria by going on a fast,
Right.
on a short fast.
So does sugar-free food help to decrease yeast?
Well, it depends. It depends. What do you mean, sugar-free? I've heard about people who actually heal their yeast overgrowth on a high-carb diet by just not eating fat, by eating a lot of sugar, but it was natural sugar. And there is other camp who would say that, yes, you have to starve yeast by not eating any sugar, by going on a ketogenic diet, or yes, something like this. So there are two coins of the story. So I think that you have to see for yourself, but definitely if you have a yeast overgrowth, definitely it's good to contact a really professional, and the person who will choose a treatment for you. I guess that they will also incorporate antimicrobials to just kill the bad stuff in your gut, and then again you will have to repair the gut, re-inoculate the microbiome. So there's a whole procedure. It's not that simple as just do not eat sugar.
Right, right. So the next question is, if there are any recommendations for supplements for prebiotics.
Yeah, you can buy a probiotic supplement like inulin. However, I would say that I think it would be better to just eat foods that are rich in probiotics. I do not have any specific recommendations for supplements.
Okay. The next question is, can green tea be given to children above 10?
I think it can be. Just do not overdo it. But I think that it is safe.
Right. Okay. So I can see one question. Many children with autism also have problems with constipation. So any recommendation how to work on that?
Yes, I would say that just increasing the amount of fiber. There are some cases of people who are actually, and in those people, going on a very low fiber diet can improve digestion. But this is like a small subpopulation of people. Usually, to improve constipation, we should improve hydration of the body, because we also know that everything to flow, we need a lot of fluids in our body. And the second one would be trying to incorporate more fiber into the diet with every meal.
Okay. So I have one question for you, Natalia, from my side. So the question is, what hormones, which we see in gut and brain as well? What are the hormones we usually come across?
Okay. Yeah. In our gut, we also synthesize many hormones, many also neurotransmitters. So yes, our bacteria can also synthesize different molecules. So yes, for example, in the gut, we know that 90% of our all serotonin in our body is actually synthesized in the gut.
Right.
However, it's not like those neurotransmitters which are in the gut, they are not easily transported to the brain. It doesn't happen that that serotonin from the gut escapes and then goes to the brain.
Correct.
It doesn't work that way. However, they can still communicate, because through those indirect ways of communication. For example, in other cells, they might be receptors for serotonin. Serotonin will bind to the receptor, and then the information will go to the brain. So yes, there are many hormones, many neurotransmitters produced in the gut, and they can impact the brain, but rather indirectly.
Right. So I think we have managed to address all the questions with the time frame we had, and I'll just go through if I have missed out anything. Okay, looks good. We managed to cover my 10 set of questions, and we had a good set of questions here as well. So we'll wait maybe if there are any questions for a minute or two, and then maybe we can conclude the session, because this topic is so relatively new for even the parents and even for the professionals. So I'm sure in coming years, this would take a lot of research, to have coming up. And this becomes as a foundation for many of the rehabilitation also to, look into the gut-brain
Yeah, I'm very excited, because research is very promising, and I'm very excited to see when it becomes really a thing in a clinical settings. So yeah, I see that there are people interested in that topic, in gut-brain axis, and I'm very happy that I could be here today and answer some of your questions. If you have more questions, or you would like to connect with me, you can always visit my Instagram, and it's on Well-Fed Brain. And even if right now there are not any more questions, because I don't see any, therefore you can connect with us other time, and we will happily answer your questions.
Yes. So we'll conclude the session, Natalia. So thank you so much. It was very insightful. It was a very important topic to touch because these are the topics we don't see commonly discussed even in our medical and paramedical fraternity. So very insightful, very productive. And thank you so much for taking up your time and sharing your experience.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay. So we have one last question and maybe we can conclude with that. What are the common allergies faced with ASD, autism spectrum disorder?
Yeah, I think we sort of covered it, that it would be gluten, then also and casein, like in dairy. So I would say that those two things, and that is true. People with the autism spectrum disorder, they are many people have some sensitivities, so that's very important to pay attention to that.
Perfect. So to all the audience, thank you so much for being live with us today and with all the questions and suggestions. If there are any more queries where we could not address or maybe it pops up in your mind later on, you can definitely message me and I'll share Natalia's Instagram profile. She's very active and you all can get in touch with her, and maybe in coming series we would be able to address those questions as well. So thank you so much. Stay safe, stay good till we meet again. Thank you, Natalia.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.